Where's little aleph? Two lines above that.
Oh, okay.
Rabbi Zir, Rabbi Yasser, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yai, also b'shem Rabbi. Ochel shlishi. Somebody who eats food which is a shlishi, the truma. Now, of course, you have first degree, second degree, third degree tuma, right?
Right.
So something which is third degree tuma by truma, that's it. That's the bottom of the ladder. It can't go any lower than that. In other words, if you really shlishi does not make revi. Third degree doesn't make fourth degree by truma, only by kachim, right? Only by korbanos and such like.
But you never get below shlishi?
By truma.
Okay.
The way it works is just to go through and remind us of schulin.
Yeah.
The lowest level is sheni, second. Truma at the lowest level is shlishi, third. Kachim, the lowest korbanos and such like, the lowest level is revi, fourth. And paraduma, the lowest level is chamishi, fifth. Okay? All these gradations are the Rabbanan, not the Right? So here we have this halacha that, of course, there's shlishi by truma. You would expect if you ate shlishi by truma, you would not. That's it. It wouldn't affect you because since the buck stops at shlishi l'truma, if you ate it, what's the concern? So it says, well, it's not true. If you eat you eat the shlishi b'truma, nifsa gufo milocha, and here it should be kodesh, according to Gillian Ashas. You can't eat kachim. In other words, if you eat shlishi, then actually you cannot eat kachim. So it's as if you become a shlishi yourself. In fact, it might actually be that you become a sheni, because what happens is that when you eat the food comes, let's say, the shlishi and truma. What happens is that it comes in contact with the saliva in your mouth. Now, saliva in your mouth, it really should only become a revi, right? But nevertheless, Chazal kicked it up the ladder. So they said any beverages automatically goes to a rishon, to first degree, right? So therefore, they said if you ate a shlishi of truma, normally, vis-a-vis truma, that would not have any impact. If you wanted, after you ate something which is shlishi by truma, to eat Torah truma, you'd be allowed to do so. But if you ate shlishi of truma, you may not eat kachim afterwards, anything which is actual karbanos related, because we consider you to have been kicked up the ladder by you having consumed the shlishi, okay, and having come into contact with your saliva. Says the Gemara of Lomas Nisani, isn't this explicit anyway? It says in the Mishnah, shlishi sheni lakodesh, somebody who eats shlishi becomes a sheni, meaning because of course the saliva becomes first degree, and then he himself becomes second degree, vis-a-vis kodesh, and then if he comes in contact with korbanos, he makes them shlishi. So says the Gemara, you're right, theoretically the Mishnah says that, but masnisa v'kodesh mikdash hamukdashim. The Mishnah is talking about where they're actually dealing with korbanos, or things which are affiliated with the Beis HaMikdash, and a bona fide hekdesh. The Rava, Asa Meimar Loch, Rava comes to tell you that for us b'chulik shenasu kavei kodesh, that's even true not just by actual bona fide korbanos and the like, rather even chulin, even regular mundane stuff, but if it's made with the severity, in other words, it's an individual who's consuming them, is implying them the severity of hekdesh. So therefore, after you ate a truma, which is third degree, you're not even allowed to eat those chulin, that mundane stuff, which is made of taras hakodesh. Rabbi Barchia said, Kumi Rabbi Zira from Rabbi Zira, Masisa Amarke. I have a Mishnah like that as well. I didn't need you to tell me that. The Mishnah says, Kikros HaKodesh. That's an interesting thing. You're making holy bread. The holy bread is made from flour, which is holy. That defines bread as holy. But the water is not holy. You don't need to use holy water to make holy bread. It's not our religion. We don't have the holy water, right? So therefore, let's say you use obviously non-holy water to make holy bread. So now, after you've made the dough or even baked the bread, you still have water left, moisture left in the holes, in the crevices, nooks and crannies of the bread. That water, since it never fully became one with the dough of the bread, so it's still considered to be actually chulin, right? It was made al taras hakodesh. It was made, obviously, with great degree of purity to ensure that you could use it again with holy flour, right? So therefore, this water, or this moisture which remains in the nooks and crannies, is considered to be chulin shenaso taras hakodesh, right? Considered to be mundane stuff made with the intent of keeping its sanctity intact. So kikros hakodesh, besokum, if you have kikar loaves of bread of hekdesh, and they are tame. Let's say they're shlishi, right? They're third degree tuma. Betokum osayim, and then they're within depressions or within a tray of some sort, and there's water inside the nooks and crannies of the tray. Hamayim mekudoshim. The water is holy, and water is holy, meaning that in itself is mekabel tuma, right? It's as if it is holy, even though the water is not holy itself, because of course the water is chulin. But since it's chulin shenaso taras hakodesh, it's chulin made with the intent of giving it the same degree of severity as kodesh, because obviously it was made to mix with the dough of kodesh. So therefore, it's mekabel tuma. And if it's mekabel tuma from a shlishi, it must be that it makes a revi. So we see that shlishi makes revi, and this is even though the revi is taking place in a chulin shenaso taras hakodesh, even though the water is not really kodesh. So we see that from this mission that chulin shenaso taras hakodesh, where we have mundane stuff made with the sanctity of holy stuff, that's mekabel tuma, even to the degree of revi, just as if it was kodesh itself. So it says the Gemara, if that's the case, it's a Mishnah which tells me that there's a revi, even not just by kodesh proper, but even by chulin shenaso taras hakodesh. So if that's the case, what are you telling me that I don't know already? It says more, bosh, loch, does it bother you? Literally, is it bad to you? That's a meimer loch that these Amoraim, Rabbi Zir, Rabbi Asa, came to tell you, also mashka pivke mashka kodesh. They come to tell us that interesting thing that till now it's about chulin shenaso taras hakodesh, chulin which are made with the degree of tara, right? But that normally we associate with actual liquids and beverages which come from beyond the body. The chiddush which Rabbi Zir and Rabbi Yasser, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yanai were saying in the name of Rebbe was that even your saliva has a din of chulin shenaso taras hakodesh, even your internal body fluids. And that's why if you ate a shlishi l'truma, you ate something which was the third degree to tuma by truma, so it makes your saliva, which is chulin shenaso taras hakodesh, since you're the type of person who's going to eat kachim afterwards, it makes your saliva tamei, and you're not allowed to therefore afterwards consume kachim of any sort unless you make them revi. Okay, so that's the chiddush. Amar Rabbi Zir said, "K'madat Amar Taman," like you said over there. Also, satar lechatos. We make an individual who's tar for chatos, meaning a person who's about to make a para aduma. Kimei chatos, like the war is a para aduma, where there is a chamishi, there even goes up to a fifth. Who came for chatos, and like the ashes of the chatos, which there is a chamishi. For achol, here too, also they came, and what they did is they made mashke piv k'mashke kodesh. They made the beverage in a person's mouth as if it's a holy beverage, okay? Meaning that even though it's chulin, they made it like chulin shenaso taras hakodesh. So Rabbi Zir, Rabbi Yasser, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yanai, we don't know in Matiba Mishem Rebbe. If they said this name of Rebbe, said Masnisa Minah, name of Rav, I guess it is actually. No, maybe it's Rebbe. I don't know. B'Shem Rebbe was strange. It's probably somebody else. Masnisa Minah Kimo, Masnisa Minah Tavra. I have a mission from which to sustain this theory and a mission from which to destroy this theory. Now, the Gemara now, needless to say, to Lom and Vase, is all messed up. So, I don't know exactly how to handle it in a way which will make it the least messy, but I'll try and do it according to the Shari Torah Seret Yisrael. Anyway, do we have to change the Gersos very, very significantly here, but I'll try to do it like the Shari Torah Seret Yisrael, who seems to be slightly better than the Korban Eidah in terms of following the Gersa and the Gemara. So he says, first off the bat, he says, instead of Minot Kiyuma, the second line from the bottom, Minot Havra. That the first proof is against the concept of which we just learned, and we'll see Shashlishi Sheni L'Kodesh. This is a Mishnah which says a Shlishi, meaning Shlishi by Truma, is Sheni L'Kodesh, becomes a Sheni V'zi Kodesh, meaning that makes Kodesh Tamei. Vein Sheni L'Truma, however, can no longer make any truma tame. That's it. You reach the bottom of the ladder by truma. Now, this is the key. Why is that? It's because shenasa l'tak. What? Sheni Yel Kodesh means just that it makes it can be Matame Kodesh.
So the Sheni's lopped out.
Right, Sheni is lav dafka. It doesn't mean it's real Sheni. It means it goes down another notch. It's supposed to mean, if we said Shlishi by Truma, which doesn't go down a notch anymore. So Shlishi being Sheni means it go down a notch. Now here's the key. This is the proof. The evidence is that it says, the last line here, Al Shanas Al Paras Truma, because it's made Al Paras Truma. This is the key point. In other words, it sounds like the only reason why this stuff becomes Tameh enough, in other words, the Shlishi by Truma is Tameh enough to be Matame and make Kachim Tameh, is because this is Chulin, but it's not. It's Chulin Shanas Al Taras Truma. It was made Al Taras Truma, and not Chulin Shanas Al Taras HaKodesh. Okay? So says the Gemara, if that's the case, Avolim Nas Al Taras HaKodesh, but if it's made Al Taras HaKodesh, lo, then it sounds, lo nase gufo, sheni etza kodesh. There's no word lo there, but the Shari Torah Eretz Yisrael throws it in. So then lo nase gufo, sheni etza kodesh. So it sounds like it doesn't make it sheni by kodesh. Now this is a very strange concept, and I don't know if I buy the Shari Torah Eretz Yisrael in this shot here, but as I told you, he changes the least, so I'm going to go along with it. I'll explain to you what he's saying. He says that it's possible that a coarse substance like Chulin Shanas Al Taras Truma has more susceptibility to Tuma or to making something tummy than something which is as finely guarded as Chulin Shanas Al Taras HaKodesh. And therefore, if you have Chulin Shanas Al Taras Truma, so therefore, if something became Shlishi, in that Chulin Shanas Al Taras Truma, so it can go and turn around and be Matame Kodesh. However, if you have Chulin Shanas Al Taras HaKodesh, and that becomes Shlishi, so then it's not going to go around and be Matame, something which is made Al Taras HaKodesh. Now it really is counterintuitive. That's why I'm not happy with the Shari Torah Eretz Yisrael. Because the more sensitive a thing is, the more susceptible it is to tumor. Right? That's the opposite of the way he's learning the sugya. Okay, it's probably better, even though he changes a lot, to go back to the Korban Eidah. Let's take a look at Korban Eidah on the bottom of Yud Chesam Rav, and again he just obliterates half of the sugya. So I'll do it with you. Do it with you inside, because it probably makes it goes easier in terms of logic. The last two lines. From this we have the proof. In other words, the first part is talking the proof. What's the proof? The proof is Shlishi Sheni L'Kodesh. Shlishi by Truma is Sheni L'Kodesh. Vain Sheni L'Truma. That means it can make Kodesh Tameh even though it can only make Truma Tameh. That's the Raya. So we see here that there's a Shlishi which can make Kodesh Tameh in spite of the fact that by Truma it's not Tameh. Minot Avra. And from this I also have a breaking. What's the breaking? Shenase Saltara Satuma. But that's only true if it's Nasal Taras Truma. What do you mean if it's Nasal Taras Truma? That then it's not Mitame Truma itself. Avlim Nasal Taras HaKodesh. But if the stuff was made Al Taras HaKodesh, I'm still reading the Korban Eidah on top of Yud Chesam and Beis. Avlim Nasal Taras HaKodesh was made Al Taras HaKodesh, meaning that it's even holier, more sensitive. The Nasa Gufo Kusheni Eitzo Truma. Not only is it a Sheni vis-a-vis Kochim, it's a Sheni vis-a-vis Truma. The Koshken Eitzo Hektish. And certainly it's a Sheni vis-a-vis Hektish. So before we said that there's no way that Shlishi by Truma can ever make Truma Tomei. Right? So that makes sense with the Reisha, because the Reisha says that Shlishi by Truma makes Kochim Tomei, but not Truma. But the Seifa sounds like that's only true by Chulin Shanas Al Taras Truma. chulin which are made on the level of truma, which is not so sensitive to tuma. But chulin shenasu al taras hakodesh, which are more sensitive to tuma. If you got a case like that, and then something becomes a shlishi, not only is that shlishi metame kochim, but that shlishi is even metame truma, which is a shocking concept. Because then truma, no matter what, the bottom rung is shlishi. So how, just because it's shlishi of a more sensitive substance, can it go back and make the truma itself tameh? Okay, it's a difficult thing. I have again something which is a shlishi in truma. It touched my chulin shenasu taras hakodesh. Fine, so it can make that a revi, but that revi should be able to be then considered a sheni vis-a-vis truma and make truma a shlishi. That's a very hard concept, but that's what how the Karmeidas learn the Gemara. So again, as I said, there's no easy way to learn this Gemara, but the way the Karmeidas is learning it, it comes out at least. Seems to me more reasonable in the Shari Torah Eretz Yisrael, and it comes out that the proof would be from the Reisha if I said that Chulin Shenasu al Taras HaKodesh can then, even if they were touched by Shlishi L'Truma, go turn around and make Kachim Tamei and make them Revi. The disproof would be if I said that no, even more than that. The Chulin Shenasu al Taras HaKodesh, if they became the kind of Shlishi of Truma, they themselves now become a Sheni vis-a-vis Truma, and they go back and Metame other Truma in their turn. That's a very difficult concept. Okay? Says more further. Let's just realize that it's hard to understand what's going on here. There are many. I'm just telling you, it's hard to understand what's going on here. There are many different interpretations, and we'll just skip it. Just skip to where the Karmeidas skip next, which is Tani Rabbi Yossi, which is the fifth line down, sixth line down on the page. Tani Rabbi Yossi. We learn Rabbi Yossi said. It gets easier now. Minan Revi b'Kodesh hu possible. How do you know the Revi in Kodesh is possible? Now this is an interesting thing. He's actually talking about the derivations. Now let me give you away a little secret. At the end of the sugya, we're going to say it's all Ochel Moshe Sinai. All the psukim are superfluous. And that the truth is that even that is only called Rabbi Yochanan because we know that I think it's Ben Azai who says that all Vlad Tuma is D'Rabbanan, right? That it's all D'Rabbanans anyway. All this Sheni, Shlishi, Revi. The Raisi only have Av and Rishon, right? But in any event, the Gemara is going to go through the motions of trying to derive this from actual derivations. You look like you're in pain.
I don't remember being Ben Azai. I remember somebody said it.
Uh-huh.
Was it a Maimar?
No, it's Yerushalmi. I don't think a Maimar is ever Yerushalmi. It's not Ben Azai? If somebody is arguing, you're probably not, because Bar Pluto Rabbi Yochanan Ben Azai was in Tana. You're right. So somebody of Ben Zoma? No. All right, amen. Says Mara, Tana Rabbi Yossi. I seem to go somebody didn't have smicha, but I don't remember what it was. Tana Rabbi Yossi, Minayin Revi v'Kosher Posa. I know that there's fourth level Tuma by coaching. Medinu, so logic. By Mechusar Kippurim. Now Mechusar Kippurim is an interesting concept. Mechusar Kippurim is somebody who's already tahar altogether, but has not yet brought a carbon which he has to bring. For example, somebody who had saras. So he went through the period of, or let's take a Zav, that's easier. Somebody who was a Zav, who went through the period of Tahara, right? He went through 7 clean days, and then he went to the mikveh, and night fell. The next day he's supposed to bring karbanos, but he hasn't brought them yet. Okay? So what if Mechusar Kippurim she'ena posel b'truma? If he touches truma, it doesn't bother truma. A Mechusar Kippurim is really allowed to eat truma. He's not impeded from eating truma, he's only impeded from eating kachim. Hareu posa b'kodesh. He means passes kodesh, meaning he can't eat kodesh. He's forbidden to do so. That's the whole concept is bringing karbanos. He's not allowed to eat kodesh until he brings his carbon the next day, right? Now here's a couple of typos here. Just a small. The first one's major. The second one's minor. Shlishi, not Ravi. Shlishi, a third level. Shu posel or shu posel b'truma. But the shlishi is certainly considered to be can't eat truma, right? We just said in Ramadan, if a person who's a shlishi cannot eat truma, because when he eats the truma, he possibly renders the truma unfit, right? Because again, he's a shlishi, but his saliva is like a rishon. So then, when the truma enters his body, so it makes the truma unfit. So shlishi, you cannot eat truma, and it's impossible because it's not a kavachom, it's not allowed to eat kodesh. So if he passes kodesh, So it must be that there's revi by kodesh, meaning if he passes kodesh, if he's passel b'truma, kavachomri passes kodesh, right? So if he passes it, it must mean that there's a revi. Okay, and it's a little bit difficult this derivation because let's say he just makes the kachim shlishi. Who says he makes revi? After all, the reason why it's forbidden to eat truma is because he's a shlishi and he shouldn't come into contact with truma, even though he's not going to make it any worse than shlishi. It doesn't get any worse than shlishi. But nevertheless, one is assuming that if he's not allowed to eat truma, when he makes kodesh, he passes it, which means he makes a revi. So it says more, shlishi min hakosov. Shlishi is learned out of a pasuk that there's a shlishi, and the pasuk it doesn't bring it down here, but the Bavli and Sota brings down the pasuk and Sota Daf Chavtes. Your quote on the side it says that v'abasor she'yiga b'chol tamei lo ye'ochel. It says meat which touches any tamei cannot be eaten. Now any tamei means not just a rishon but a sheni. Kol tamei, any type of tumah. So it means that meat which touches a sheni becomes a shlishi. That's learned out for a pasuk. U'revi mikal v'chomer, just made a kal v'chomer to learn a revi. In other words, a mechusar kippurim may not eat kachim. So certainly somebody who's a shlishi can't eat kachim, and he must render them unfit. Hey, so Rabbi Yochanan asked, how can you say this? Hare ochel abab machmas tvul yom yochiach. Let me prove to you somebody who so let's take this case. You have ochel, which has to do with tvul yom. I forgot if the tvul yom actually eats it or not. 1 second. No, he touches it. A tvul yom. Somebody went to the mikveh after having had an emission or such like, but he hasn't yet had his night fall upon him, right? So he's less than a mechusar kippurim. He's more tamei than mechusar kippurim. So tvul yom who touches food which is kodesh or food which is truma. So hareu posel b'truma. He renders the truma unfit. Meaning that he has a din of a sheni, and the truma he renders truma unfit. Ve'eno posel b'kodesh, yet he doesn't passel kodesh. Now, how does that work? Yeah, the way the Korban Eidah explains it is that a person who is a tvul yom has a status like a sheni. So that means that he makes truma apostle. But let's say that tvul yom touches something and that in turn touches kachim. So you would expect that whatever the tvul yom touches becomes a shlishi. And that in turn is going to go and apostle kachim. It doesn't. Okay? He is a sheni only vis-a-vis truma and not a sheni vis-a-vis touching something which will then touch kachim that should make the kachim apostle. So if that's the case, we see that there's a possibility that somebody can make shlishi by truma, meaning the tvul yom makes shlishi by truma, and not necessarily have the impact of making revi by kodesh. So maybe taka, a person who became a shlishi by truma, also cannot make kodesh revi. Maybe there's no such thing. Rabbi Chanina b'shem Rabbi Yochanan said, "Asid Rabbi Yossi b'shitas Rabbi Kiva Rabbo." So Rabbi Chia said, "Name Rabbi Yochanan." You know what? Rabbi Yossi said there is Revi Bakodesh. He learned like Rabbi Akiva's Rebbe. Kamad the Rabbi Akiva Martamani Yitma Yitma Dvar Torah. Rabbi Akiva learned out the drush from the Pesukim. How exactly learned out? It's not material for us right now. It's a Gemara in Pesachim. Rabbi Akiva says there's a shlishi by chulin. We don't all like Rabbi Akiva. We know by chulin is only sheni. But Rabbi Akiva says that there's a shlishi by chulin. That you have third level by tumah by chulin. So therefore, if that's the case, so Rabbi Akiva holds that there's shlishi by chulin. So can Rabbi Yossi Amaracha yitma dvar Torah? So of course Rabbi Yossi is going to say that there must be there's the tumah d'oraisa by chulin up to shlishi. There certainly has got to revi by kodesh. Meaning that chulin itself becomes tamei to the third level, right? So therefore, if you're going to take it, if you're going to make kachim more severe, certainly kachim has to reach even fourth level tumah. Without what? No, truma for sure. I mean, sorry. Truma too, but kachin for sure, right?
Question for sure.
Kachin for sure. That's what he's saying. That's so he just wants to out that there's the. No. Sorry, Rabbi Kiva holds that both chulin and truma have only shlishi. Yeah, chulin and truma are both shlishi. Kachim has revi. Well, actually, I don't know if that's true. If I recall correctly. No, you're right and I'm wrong. If I recall correctly from Psachim, the Akiva puts everything down a notch. So then there's Shlishi by Chulin, Revi by Truma, and Chamishi actually by Kachim. So actually all the Gemara is saying, according to Rabbi Yosef, is Kav Chomer. If there's the Shlishi by Chulin, there must be Revi by Truma, and there certainly is Revi by Kachim, there's even Chamishi by Kachim. That's basically what it's saying. Okay. So it says, Rabbi B'Shem, Rabbi Yosef ben Chanina said, Leitz Rabbi Yossi, Tzarech lo adi kav v'chomer. Rabbi Yossi doesn't need a kav v'chomer. He doesn't learn out from cross-referencing back and forth between Chulin and Truma. Kraidosh, he actually took him. And Kraidosh Rabbi Yossi says, V'abasar sheyiga, meat which touches zeh sheni shenoga b'rishon. That's a sheni which touched the first. The second degree which came to kind of the first degree. B'chol tamei, you touch anything tamei zeh shlishi shenoga b'sheni. That's the third degree which touched the second degree. Lo ye'achel, it's not being sof tamei. That refers to the last rung of Tumah, meaning Revi. Lo ye'achel, so that means, and it says, so again, lo ye'achel, sof tamei. Lo ye'achel means it should not be eaten, means that it itself is possible, but it doesn't render anything else possible. In other words, the buck stops at Revi. In other words, Revi receives Tumah, becomes possible, but it's not called Tameh because it doesn't have the power to impart its Tumah to other substances. Okay? This, till now, we've been talking about in this pasuk. Food, which became Tameh, because it came into contact with something Tameh in the airspace of a earthenware vessel. Shenitma Shiva Sheretz, where there was something, a dead rodent inside. In other words, the airspace transferred the tumah from the dead rodent to the foodstuffs. How do we know that if you have a foodstuff which touched a sheretz, that transmits tumah to another foodstuff? We're still talking about where the foodstuff came into contact with the sheretz via the medium of the interior of an earthenware vessel, which we know spreads tumah. But what about if there is no interior of an earthenware vessel, rather the actual foodstuff which touched the sheretz, there was a foodstuff which touched the sheretz, that came into contact with another foodstuff. How do we know that transmits tumah? Says more of a dinu. It's a logic. Umay kelim she'enim matamim ma'avir kli cheres she'imba b'sheretz. Kalim, vessels placed into the airspace of an earthenware pot, do not receive tumah from the earthenware pot airspace, even if there's a dead rodent inside. Hareim matamim kisheretz. Nonetheless, they become tamei as the sheretz, meaning if they touch the sheretz, the dead rodent, they become tamei. L'tamei ochlin to tamei, other food they come into contact with. Ochlin atzer she'im b'sheretz. Food itself, which touched the sheretz, Eino dead rodent, Eino din she'itamu kisheretz, is not a kavachomer that they become and they themselves do receive tumah from that. It's not a kavachomer she'itamu kisheretz, and become tamei like the sheretz, l'tamei ochlin, in order to be tamei other foodstuffs. Now, this is not exact, because obviously, as we go down the ladder, we're going down a notch, right? Sheretz is rishon, the foodstuff which touched is the sheni, right? I'm sorry, sheretz is an odd. Foodstuff which touched is a rishon. We're trying to say that it's a logic that if the stuff in the airspace with the earthenware vessel becomes time for the sheretz, or to be matame, something which came into contact with the sheretz directly, certainly should become tamei to be matame other things. Akadu Rabbi Akiva, this is all like Rabbi Akiva, who learned that there's a shlishi l'chulin, right? That there's third level tumah already for chulin, everything starts from there. Rabbi Shmuel, like Rabbi Shmuel says earlier, sheni by chulin, how we know Revi by kodesh. So it says more time Rabbi Shmuel learns. meat which touches anything tamei zer rishon, that's rishon. I'm sorry. Yeah, zer rishon, that's first. Zerishon shinaga b'tami. That's the first degree to touch the tummy. Lo yechel, it should be eaten l'rabos as the sheni, that includes the sheni. Shlishi b'truma minayin. So that, how does he know that there's shlishi by truma? Kavadinu, it's the logic. Umayit full yom shenu posa b'chulin. Full yom, which doesn't render chulin unfit. Harei posa b'truma, but renders truma unfit. Right? In other words, the guy went to the mikvah that has not yet fallen on him. So, sheni, shuposa b'chulin, a sheni who when he comes got the chulin does make the chulin actually possible. In other words, a tzvul yom is quasi tamei, quasi tor. So it doesn't fully make a chulin that he comes into contact with tamei. However, he doesn't make it all tamei. He makes truma that he came into contact with puzzle, but he doesn't make chulin tamei or puzzle for that matter. However, a person who's actually a sheni, right? So sheni shu posa b'chulin, where we actually can make something puzzle by chulin. I can't. Wait a minute. Maybe we have to change the girsa here. What does it mean a posa b'chulin? How can a sheni make shlishi by chulin? Whoops. What? It says sheni shu posa b'chulin. What does that mean, sheni posa b'chulin? Ooh, I know, I fell into a trap. Not a big one. I forgot. Every time it says posel here on the page, it can also mean puzzle. Posel means to make it. But pasul, it can also mean pasul, which means that he is. So this is the way to read it here. Pasul b'chulin. Right? It's not possible. Already possible b'tuma. It's possible by truma, right?
So is that
a tful yom can't make chulin tamei. If tful yom touches chulin, nothing happens to it, because his level is that of a sheni. He's an honorary sheni. He's not a real sheni because he went to the mikveh already, but it's an honorary sheni. So a sheni doesn't make shlishi by chulin, right? But by truma he does. So tful yom she'ena pasul b'chulin, he's not pasul because he's only an honorary sheni, not a real sheni, right? So tful yom was an honorary sheni by chulin, nevertheless a pasul's truma. Sheni shu pasul b'chulin, a sheni who's really pasul by chulin, right? He's not sheni is not an honorary sheni. Sheni is actually a sheni, right? Can I make myself clear?
so
he certainly makes shlishi by truma.
Yeah, but when we say the sheni by chulin, we don't say it's not that he's a sheni touching chulin. It's that he's really a rishon touching chulin.
Who's he?
This real sheni. We're talking about supposed to be a real sheni. Well, real sheni doesn't make a shlishi by chulin.
No, he makes shlishi by truma.
Right.
Well, that's what he says here. Look, sheni shu pasul b'chulin. He himself is pasul b'chulin, and odin sheyifso b'truma.
So sheni shu pasul b'chulin.
Actually, works out very well. Look it back again. If you substitute pasul for posel the first time around in both clauses, works out very well. Might yom sheino pasul b'chulin. right? Harei posel b'truma, right? He's not considered to be a posel vis v'chulin. He can't do anything for chulin. Vis v'chulin is tar. It's full yom. There's no barriers. I'm looking for the restrictions on him vis v'chulin, right? So therefore, harei posel b'truma. Nevertheless, he posels truma until nightfall. Sheni shu posel b'chulin. A sheni utaka is posel vis v'chulin. In other words, there is a concept of sheni by chulin. An object can become a sheni by chulin, right? Right. So a person can become a sheni vis-a-vis chulin, right? So therefore, such a person is certainly a rei paisel b'truma, right? Did she paisel b'truma?
There at that point, we're really switching terms, right? Because here it's sheni shu paisel b'chulin, which means you're talking about a rishon who makes a sheni by chulin. Ein odin. So certainly, sheyifsel b'truma, if you're a sheni and mamish sheni, making truma into a sheni.
Right.
So there's a switch in the terminology. A sheni sheposel b'chulin means you're really a rishon who passes chulin and making it into a sheni.
No. Sheni shu posel b'chulin. Why are you learning posel?
Well, you're saying sheni. What's the status of a sheni by chulin?
It doesn't. Can food become a sheni by chulin?
Yeah.
Can a person become a sheni by chulin?
A person can become a sheni.
Right. So.
Yeah, but.
All we're saying is that even though the buck stops at sheni by chulin, nevertheless he can still that person or object which is a sheni will still make a shlishi by truma, just like the full yom does.
I have no problem with that.
So what is the problem?
It's not just the words just throwing me off. Shlishi Sheni shu pasel b'chul, which means you're saying that there is a concept of sheni by chul.
Right.
Ein odin, certainly a shlishi. So it's saying odin sheyifsel b'truma, that a sheni should pass away.
Right.
Make it into a shlishi.
Uh-huh.
Right. I guess the wholesale terminology is just throwing me off. Okay.
Right. It's throwing me off too. But that obviously posel and posel are being used interchangeably here. Okay. Now we still need to know Revi, right? Revi b'kodesh minayin. And here Revi, he also learns out from before Vidinu. It's a logic. Person Mechusar Kippurim, he went to the mikveh. Night fell. He didn't bring his carbon yet. Sheno posel b'truma is not posel vis-a-vis truma. He can eat truma. Nevertheless, there is posel b'kodesh. He can't eat kodesh. Shlishi shu posel b'truma. Shlishi is actually, again, it should be pasul instead of posel. A shlishi is posel by truma. Bonafide posel by truma, much more than Mechusar Kippurim, who is allowed to eat truma. And with the achievements of a kodesh, he must make kodesh posel. Okay? Now, again, there's a flaw here, which is in Mechusar Kippurim, just to say the same flaw on top. A Mechusar Kippurim cannot eat kodesh. But we don't know that he makes Revi, kodesh Revi, right? So too, maybe a person who's shlishi by truma cannot eat kodesh, but how do you know he makes kodesh Revi? It's the same flow he had on top, right? Mechusar Kippurim is not a concept of tuma. Yeah, we're extrapolating from that he's not allowed to eat kodesh to a shlishi who's not allowed to eat kodesh and makes the Revi, makes the kodesh Revi. That's the flaw in this whole discussion, right? So it says, we're rishon and sheni from the pasuk, shlishi min adin, shlishi from the kav chomer from tvuyom, revi min kav chomer, revi from kav chomer from Mechusar Kippurim. So it says, wait a minute, dani lo din min adin? Do we learn out a kav chomer from a kav chomer? In other words, you're learning out shlishi, you learned that from a kav chomer. Then Revi, you're building another kav chomer on top of that. Says Gemara, no. You know what? You're really right. We fooled you the whole time. All we kind of came to show you is that actually it doesn't work out. We're just making a big joke on you. And rather, everything is underlined by Halach Moshe Sinai. Shlishi Paisel B'Truma V'Revi B'Kodesh. In other words, everything we just did in the previous summer was a waste of time because it doesn't really work out properly, and therefore everything is we learn Halach Moshe Sinai. We're just trying to take that which is Halach Moshe Sinai and try and give it logical underpinnings aside from the Halach Moshe Sinai. Okay? Says the Gemara.
That's how Bobby use it as well?
Oh, sure.
Oh, it does?
I remember, I shouldn't say it because I don't remember what more than Saito, where the discussion is. But I know the Bobby holds that Shlish should be our Lochel Moshe Sinai. Unlike Yerushalmi, we saw that all Vlada Tuma is D'Rabbanan. Torah, the other hand, remains Torah. Okay, as opposed to Kodesh, if one hand becomes Tameh, then the other hand is Tameh as well. So now the Korban Eidah throws in here the words Yad Neguva Mitame Chaverta L'Tameh Sakodesh that you have in the Gemara. A hand which is dry is Mitame the other hand vis-a-vis Kodesh. In other words, even though both my hands are dry and there was no medium for the Tumah to transfer from one hand to the other hand, nevertheless the Tumah transfers from the other one hand to the other hand. And then he throws in Avalos Truma, but it doesn't transfer by vis-a-vis Truma, only vis-a-vis Kochim. Divi Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Divi Rebbe. Sorry, that's the words of Rebbe. Rabbi Yossi Yehuda Omer Lifso B'Kodesh. Rabbi Yossi Yehuda says it makes your hands puzzle vis-a-vis Kodesh. In other words, by Truma, this hand is Tameh, this hand is Tahor. By Kodesh, according to Rebbe, this hand is Tameh, this hand is Tameh. According to Rabbi Yossi, this hand is Tameh, this hand is Puzzle. Meaning, according to Rebbe, if this hand is Shlishi, I'm just taking Shlishi out of half, but it could be Sheni too, or Rishon. This hand is Shlishi, this hand is Shlishi. According to Rabbi Yossi, if this hand is Shlishi, then this hand is Revi. Goes down a notch. Okay? So it says, even though one hand is Tameh, the other hand is only Puzzle. Okay? The hand which became Tameh is Tameh, the other hand goes down a notch. Okay? Says more, Mak Rabbi Yeshua. What does he hold like Rabbi Yeshua? That we learned, Tia Taman, Kol Posos Truma, anything which makes Truma Posel, meaning makes Truma Shlishi. Metames Yadayim also makes hands Tameh, Liot Shnios, in order that the hand should be considered to be Sheni L'Tuma. Even though it makes the Truma Shlishi, vis-a-vis Yadayim, they assume that it be a Sheni. V'yad Metames Chaverta, Divrei Rabbi Yeshua. The one hand is Matame, the other hand, according to Rabbi Yeshua. So it says more, so it sounds like that's like Rebbe before. I think I messed up the names before. The Rebbe says one hand is Matame, the other. Here to Rabbi Yeshua says one hand is Matame Yeshua. Says more, no, the Rabbi Yeshua, Rava mean the Rebbe. Rabbi Yeshua is saying a bigger Kiddush than Rebbe. Ma'adamar Rebbe v'Kodesh, because Rebbe said one hand is Matame, the other by Kachim. Madam Rabbi Yeshua said even by Truma that's the case as well. Rabbi Shimon Lo Shonel Chaverto. And now I would have thought this is partial, but Rabbi Shlomo tells us the Chiddush. If one hand is tummy, my other hand is tummy. What if I play patty cake with you and I touch your hand? I'm not matami your hand. My hand, which is tummy, is not matami your hand. It's matami my other hand, but not your hand. Okay? Lo Shonel Chaverto. Acheres lo b'tomei else's hand, not. Rabbi Yochanan, I feel acheres. If my hand is tummy and touches somebody else's hand, it's matame that hand. Rabbi and Rabbi Ami b'shem Rabbi Yochanan said, "Afilu kfar amarin." Even if we already said this, chaza bei Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan reneged. He changed his mind. Says the Gemara, Ma'ada. What did he renege? Ma Marko. What did he say previously? So it says, Ma'ad lo yachsar bei, until he reneged, lo amar el tame kikor. He said only that it's metame a loaf of bread. But it's my tummy hand is metame, a loaf of bread that comes in contact with and makes it tummy. Al shem called places of truma, because it's mental aiding which makes truma possible. Metame siyadayim is metame the hands, the yoshnios to make the hands of shnios. Al tame kikar, Right. So he said, till now he said, so I'm not sure how to punctuate this. I'm sorry. Okay, I see what it's called. I'm sorry. Rabbi Yochanan originally how not only am I matami somebody else's hand, but also matami a piece of bread which I touch with my hand, which is tamei. Now the thing is like this: if I'm matami a piece of bread which I touch, that means that it becomes a sheni. Because if it became a shlishi, I wouldn't call it tamei, rather possible. So originally, Rabbi Yochanan thought just like my one hand is matame the other hand, so too my hand is matame bread it touches. Saying that my hand is a sheni, the bread also becomes a sheni. On that, Rabbi Yochanan reneged and said the bread only becomes a shlishi, and that's what it says here. Rabbi Yochanan ma'adah says back to the third line down. What did we neg? Ma marko what till now? Actually, I'll say till he reneg lo ma'alatame kikor. He said it's matame the bread. Means it makes the bread a sheni. I'll say call a place truma, just like anything which makes truma possible. It's a time the hands that there become a sheni. So to mitame the bread, and the bread becomes a sheni. Says more no than reneg. He said tame kikar in terms of tumah the bread. Kol amamayde everybody agrees she'eno mitame. It's not mitame the bread. I'll shame she'ain sheni also sheni, because sheni does not make sheni unless it's your other hand. Then maybe your two hands become sheni, but if your hand touches something else, can only make it a shlishi, so therefore the bread only becomes pasul and not something. Okay. Ochlin negubim. One can eat dried foods which actually have been dried off, biyadayim savos, its hands which are tummy. And we pass them like that, even those who wash for fruit, only wash for fruit if the fruit is still wet. But the fruit is dried, they don't wash for fruit, because there's no such takara d'Rabbanan, even though it was once wet. But truma, that's true by truma, havalo b'kodesh. But by kodesh, even though now it's dry, you have to wash before you eat it. Ha'onen, somebody who was in the day of Aninus before his parent was buried, or his relative was buried, somebody who was lacking a kapara because he had brought his kabonos, tzrichin tefillah kodesh, so before they eat kodesh, they're barred from eating kodesh until they go to the mikvah. Havlo truma, in terms of truma, even though right now they can't eat truma, because an onen can't eat truma, or mechusik purim can't eat truma, but with that night, when he can eat truma, he eats truma even without having gone to the mikvah. Okay? Because he went to mikvah earlier. I'm Rabbi Chida ben Tignus. Rabbi Chida said, "V'chiesh ochlin neguvim etzel hakesh, or etzel kodesh." What is considered to be dry food by kodesh? As Korban points out, all hektish is considered to be roy l'kabel tumah because of chibas hakodesh, because of the precious stature of kachim. So even if now it's dry, what difference does it make? It's still suitable to kabel tumah. Therefore, you shouldn't be allowed to touch it with your hands which are tummy. So it says, I'll tell you. We're talking about a case where you stuck a hot cake or anything else of kachim on, it should be bishbud, on a skewer, vochlima, and you're eating with it kazayis, basar, a kazayis of flesh, and again, flesh is lav davka, means anything which is truma. The truma, right? Actually, the sharitar is so changes to a zayis or batzel, to olives or onions, because obviously meat is not really truma. What it means is that if my hands are tummy, I can touch truma with a skewer. So I don't touch the truma directly. But I can't touch kachim with a skewer. Even though I'm not touching the kachim directly, I'm skewing it, nevertheless I'm allowed to touch it, even in that way, shape, or form, as long as I am, as long as my hands are tummy. Even the rest of my body is Torah, of course. Timothy, we learned over there. You're eating a date with hands which are tummy. And when you put your hand to your mouth, to take out a pebble stuck between your teeth. It's a tremendous problem. So the Gemara said that although it's not brought down here, Rabbi Meir says, we're assuming going to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says that now you made the food tummy. Why is that? Because your hands are sheni. They touched your saliva and made your saliva rishon, right? And now that rishon goes back as mitame, the food is mitame the date, even though it's chulin, because there is sheni by chulin. So therefore, even though you're allowed to eat chulin stuff with the tummy hand, that's only if it doesn't become moist. But if it becomes moist, then of course it's metame the fruit as well, because the moisture reverts to a rishon. Okay, so that's what it says here. As long as you put your hand in your mouth, then already you have a problem. Chizkiah said it's only true by a date, because you like moist dates. So therefore, actually the moisture which you took from your saliva, from your mouth, and put on the date is beneficial for you. And that's why it's forbidden. Because the moisture now, which you're putting on, is intentional and pleasing to you, and that makes it tummy. Hoshar called varim lo, but not any other fruits. And Rabbi Yochanan said, Omar, lo shani velo hishar called varim. It's true about every fruit, no matter what the fruit is. Okay, where are we davening? Okay, then in a couple minutes. So it says the Gemara, Masnisa pliga Chizkiah. The Mishar is a Chizkiah who said it's only a fig or a date actually, because it says Maga Tmei Mace. If somebody came into contact with a Tmei Mace, okay, he actually was not Tmei Mace, but he touched a person with Tmei Mace. Shayu Ochlinu Mashkin B'soch Piv, and he put food and beverages in his mouth. Hichnis Rosho La'avir Atanur, and then he put his hand, into the airspace of an oven, Tor, which is Tor, V'timah, he's metame. Now this is a very, very funny thing. I don't understand it really myself, but look, I'm Tameh Rishon, right? I stick my hand into a tanur. A tanur is a large room. So I'm actually not metame. There's no tumor which spread, right? Unless I have beverages in my mouth. Because since beverages, since they're beverages in my mouth, so then I said they were glazing on the beverages that they're metame in airspace. They gave beverages the chumrah as if they are actually metame in airspace, even though they're only a rishon. This is a funny thing. I never saw this before, never heard of it before. That's what it says. So therefore, even if I'm tameh and I go into a room, of course, unless I'm a mace, everything in the room remains tar. But if I have beverages in my mouth which became tameh, because I was a rishon and they make the beverages tameh, the beverages spread tumah. So therefore, actually, everything in the room, all foodstuffs in the room, I shouldn't say not the furniture, but all foodstuffs in the room become tameh. It's as if I now made the room into a giant kli cheres, and everything is metame from the stuff, from the mashkin which I have in my mouth, and vice versa. V'tor shayu ochli mashkin toch piv. If somebody was tor and he had food and beverages in his mouth, and ichnis roshul avir tanur tameh, and he sticks his head into an oven which is tameh, v'nidma, then he becomes tameh because it works the other way, which the mashkim spread the tumah, and if there's tumah in the room, the mashkim receive the tumah. So the mashkin have sensitivity to make an oel, which is really not an oel, because it's like a giant kli cheres. I should say it makes a giant kli cheres, because that's why a tanur is a pottery. So it's like a massive kli cheres. It makes everything inside like a kli cheres, even though it's not d'oraisa anywhere near a kli cheres, unless there's dead sheretz or dead mace inside, and the tumah spreads. So nichol mashkin tmeim. I understand the mashkim they're tamei because they're mashkin. But ochli mi me'echon uksha. But where did the food become mushal kabel tumah? Lo mi mashkin piv must be that from the beverages in the mouth. It doesn't say any type. It doesn't say specifically a date. So we see it's any type of food. So it says when tipota of it velo shmeina. Says more no chizku say it's sorry dafka about dates. Or bochlin shulchra chain bechutz. Or say about food which came mukshul kabel tumah while still outside his body. And it's not now. Takor the chizki. The only thing which goes mukshul with your saliva is dates and not anything else. All right, we'll stop here for today. It's hard enough.